Hi, trend forecasting students. I hope you are all doing well. I am coming to you to welcome you to Module 5. We have now hit the final module of the course. So we are in the home stretch. With Monday being a holiday, we are technically in the second day of Module 5. So I thought I would come to you and review all of the components of it so that you have a little additional context for completing the assignments and working your way through the module. So I will go ahead and share my screen and walk through the elements of Module 5. So here we are in Module 5, as you can see. So we have some basic information up at the top here. The module, as you know, and as I mentioned, started 2 days ago on Monday the 20th, and it will be due on Sunday, May 10th at 11:59. So some overview information here. Module 5 covers Chapter 11 and Chapter 12. So essentially what we're looking at are examining the competitive landscape for any client that we might work for or brands that we might work for, and understanding the importance of being able to analyze the competitive set and the competitive landscape at large, and how to use that information to our advantage, and how it might play in to our process of trend forecasting, right? So understanding what the competition is doing with regard to trend forecasting and developing new product based on forecasts, etc., is very important so that you have an understanding of what's going on in the market and how you may need to react to it. So that's Chapter 11. Chapter 12 is kind of the final bit of trend forecasting, which looks at presenting the forecast. So the chapter kind of walks you through a number of different things to think about when you have actually completed the forecast. You've gone through the process, you've used all the tools and frameworks, etc., that we've talked about up till now, and you're actually charged with presenting or reporting what your forecast is that you've developed. So that's an important chapter in terms of kind of tying up the last components of what you would actually do with the forecast, which of course is to communicate it to others. So that's kind of what Module 5 is all about. As you move through the module structure, you'll see that the resources for Module 5 are here. So that would be, of course, the slide deck for Chapter 11 and Chapter 12. And then we get into the module assessments. So the very first one is a course discussion. The way that we'll talk about looking at competitive landscapes and competitive analysis is actually through our own experience as consumers. So for this discussion forum, I'm asking you to think about a recent purchase. And I think, thinking about recent purchases might seem kind of funny, given the environment that we're currently living in. None of us are going in to stores, or at least in the way that we used to go into stores right now. However, chances are that even with the consumer goods environment at a relative halt, in a way that we've never seen before in our own history, I think we'll probably all have made a purchase of one kind or another since the onset of COVID-19. So that might be something that you purchased online that has to do with fashion, and it may have nothing to do with fashion at all. It might be something of more practical use that you needed to have and that you did go into a store in order to obtain. So, this is going to be more limited than it might have otherwise been, but I think that's okay, and I think that's important to look at, particularly given our current situation, and as a tie-in to the final project as well. So think about a purchase that you've made in the recent past. So the timeline I give you is basically since LaSalle announced its campus closure, so about mid-March. And I ask you to think about a couple of things and to write about those things briefly in a discussion forum post. What was the purchase? What was your consideration set for the purchase? So that means, what alternatives did you consider? What was the set of competitors that you thought about, evaluated, maybe looked at, researched before making the purchase. Now, maybe you didn't go into a full-blown research process. Maybe it was a simple purchase because that's all we're really doing now, and that's okay. But nonetheless, there was probably, even if very subtle, very brief, or even maybe subconscious, there was probably some bit of a moment, maybe a fleeting moment, that you evaluated your alternatives before you actually took the plunge and made the purchase. So that's what I'm referring to there. How did you come to the decision to make your purchase? What is the brand's competitive advantage that compelled you to choose that particular brand or item or product or whatever over the alternatives in the marketplace? Okay, so you'll include that information in the discussion post, and then you will have an opportunity to read about your fellow classmates' purchases and then comment on them. Okay, so the initial post is due by Sunday, April 27th at 11:59. Okay, so you have till this Sunday at midnight to develop your own post, and then you have until Sunday, May 10th to come back into the discussion forum and to read responses and to respond to at least 2. So some things that you might consider on that are weighing in with your own thoughts on posts where you observed something of particular note that they mentioned or wrote about. Compare and contrast 2 different posts to illustrate the different experiences that are taking place right now. Answer a question if one is posed to you or to the group as a whole. Ask questions to clarify, to get more information, or because something that was said interests you. Okay, so 2 deadlines to keep in mind there. April 27th and May 10th. Okay, the next assignment is individual. It's on chapter 12, and it looks at trend mapping. So trend mapping is an additional trend reporting tool that we haven't really discussed very much yet, and I think it's an important one because of the context it provides for a trend. Okay, so I'm asking you to review the section of chapter 12 on trend maps, and I give you quite a number of page references down below when we get into the specific instructions. I'm asking you to think about the different elements of a trend that go beyond just the kind of visual style aesthetic elements of a trend with making this trend map. So when I use the word map, I'm asking you to develop something in a diagram format. So in a similar way as you would develop a mind map or a concept map, maybe you've developed these types of items for other courses. So there's some visuals here for you to take a look at what examples of those look like. They are not examples of this particular assignment, but examples of what a diagram in a mind map or a concept map might look like. So you can adopt this format for this assignment. So you'll select a trend, and that trend will go in kind of this central bubble that you see in the middle of these 2 diagram images here. And then you'll go through a number of the elements of trend mapping discussed in the text and write about them as they pertain to the specific trend that you've chosen. So these are those items here, and I give you specific page numbers to reference in terms of where to find information about what that topic really means and the types of things that you could develop. Okay, so your map should include a bubble for a subtopic bubble for at least all of these topics that are listed here. But if there was another thing that was particularly relevant to the trend you've chosen that helps map it, that helps give it more context, you can by all means include that. Once you've developed these subtopic bubbles, you can absolutely include extensions of those subtopics, so in related ideas, as this format calls them here. Okay, so that's what the trend mapping is all about. That will be due at the end of the module on Sunday, May 10th. Okay, and then the final assessment for Module 5, of course, will be exam number 5, as always, which will be available at this link here. You will have from the final Tuesday of the module to the final Sunday of the module to complete the exam, as was the case with Module 4. And then the final area of the module is a question and answer forum, which is optional, but a place for you to ask questions about Module 5, either the content or an assignment or whatever may come up. as well as to discuss it in a way that we might otherwise be able to address in the classroom. So chances are, if you found something a little bit challenging or you have a question on it, other people do as well. If you found something particularly compelling and you want to discuss it a little bit, perhaps someone else did as well. So all of that could go here. So I will wrap up by visiting the Module 5 agenda, which is a great recap of everything that we just discussed. Okay, so you are to read Chapter 11 and Chapter 12 and review their respective slide decks. From there, you will complete the purchasing reflection for competitive analysis discussion. That means that you will develop an original post, an initial post by April 27th at midnight. You will reply to at least 2 other people by Sunday, May 10th at midnight. You'll complete the trend mapping exercise for Chapter 12, which will be due Sunday, May 10th at midnight. And you will complete Exam 5, which will be available from Tuesday, May 5th to Sunday, May 10th at midnight. Okay? In addition, during Module 5, which is the final phase of the course, you should also continue to work on assignment number 5, as well as the final project. Okay? Although these 2 assignments are not explicitly tied to Module 5, you need to also be working on them during this final phase of the course in order to be able to complete them successfully. So that is Module 5 in a nutshell. If you have any further questions or would like additional clarification, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy working on Module 5 and take good care. I'll see you soon.